So today's video, I want to go over something that I did in 2018 and one of the main reasons why you will get shaken out of the market. There's three different things here. They're very, very important and you need to understand them before you get shaken out. Honestly, you won't even think about this, but it is a thing. So here we are on the screen. Now you're probably wondering what three things I'm going to talk about here. So psychologically, quite big important things. It's about time. The slow, horrible grind. First and foremost. So on the screen you can see here just a little bit of a chart. Simple BTC chart, nothing exciting. But you can see overall what looks like a bottom and what does not look like a bottom. In my honest opinion, not financial advice of course, like anything on this channel, nothing should be taken as financial advice. This does not look like a bottom. We're on the weekly time frame. Yeah, we've got time, I think. This is what happened in 2018. Slow, horrible, ugly grind, right? And then it did nothing for months. Months it did nothing. Went down from 6k down to 3k like that. So, rule number one, very, very simple rule. The slow grind could be one opportunity where you may well get shaken out. You will be bored. It'll be boring. But the flip side of that is obvious. Accumulation. Lots of accumulation. If I look at other charts as well, let's look at Ethereum just to show you the slow, horrible, ugly grind. And throughout this video, I'm going to explain one of the big things that I lost a lot of money on in 2018, which is something that I'm aiming not to do again. So you can see how slow it was. And even when we're looking at this sort of time range here, so if we're going to go from this weekly level here down to this low, 462 days, it was kind of bouncing around that area. Now, yes, there is moves up and down. Yes, there's opportunities to maybe trade. But accumulation? Cool. It's a lot of time. I'm not saying that will happen this time, but there will be a period where that will happen. Because it happens every single time. Happens every single market cycle. And if we go back in time and look at the previous one, go to the log scale so you can see it. So if we're going to go into the previous sections, so you can see one here. So again, the previous sort of market, this was when Mt. Gox took off and destroyed itself. You can see here it dribbled out. It was in this region for a long, long time, roughly almost 2 years, give or take, around that time period where we were kind of just flopping around for a while. So yeah, number one, don't worry about it. The time is huge. The next one we need to talk about, and I kind of alluded to it, is the bottom. The bottom in effect, that looks like a bottom. It's had multiple tests and this is what we need, right? And the biggest failure in any market psychology is retesting of a potential level, or at least being in and around it for long enough, right? Looking at the monthly time frame on BTC, for example, here, right? You know, yes, we're in this region, but it doesn't look like much. But in reality, from basically $3,800 here on, 1st of November 2018, we melted all the way down. We melted down to like 3,300, carried on going up, and it didn't just blast off. It was there in that region for about 4 to 5 months, give or take, around that point. It didn't really take off until March of the following year, right? So that's 5 months, give or take. So yeah, when we're talking about bottoms, it's not just going to go tap it like a bouncing ball. It's usually going to be there for quite some time. If you go onto like the 2-day time frame, just to kind of show you this in more detail, you can see how it was kind of in that region for quite some time. So in reality, what's a bottom and what isn't a bottom? The longer it's there, the more retests it has, the better it is. This is the absolute bottom, but ultimately it came back and retested that region, and then obviously it consolidated again, then it carried on going, broken up from that upside. A couple of percentages don't matter realistically, right? Remember, you will never, ever, ever capture the bottom. You'll never, ever capture the tops. Accumulate in the zone, you'll be all right. The last thing. Now, this is where I lost a lot of my money. In 2018 was buying stuff because it was shiny, it was new, it was relevant, right? But before I go on to that, I want to explain something first about other altcoins in terms of the past. As I said before, this is the worst thing in the world. Put yourself in my shoes here. Relatively known in the space, had a little bit of influence, had a company, was teaching and learning and all kinds of stuff for other people, right? But when you're in that situation, you want to try and get something new, something that could make you good returns. Now, I'm going to show you 4 examples of really obvious known coins with different elements to them, right? And the reason why I want to show you this is because the time will kill you, because you kind of don't really want to hold forever. Why? Because you've probably lost 60% of your bag by buying too early, right? That is a point. So, influencers out there at the moment are shilling crap. We know that. The problem with is this to you is, yes, they're low value, and what they will say in 2 years' time, oh, if you bought it then and held on. Reality is the psychological side of losing half your money is not a good start, realistically, right? You want to be in with the trend. So let's look at a few examples. Cardano. You know I was talking about that consolidation period where it was a bottom for a long time. A lot of altcoins looked like this. It looks pretty horrible. Didn't really do much for a long, long period of time. Even if I zoom in on this, right? And let me just show you, it zoomed in a little bit, right? Just to give you an idea. Yes, there was a few little rallies here and there. But in reality, this is what catches you out. These little rallies. Talked about it in the previous video, if you remember, little bear market rallies. You'll think it's a bottom, you'll start buying, and then bang, right? Stuff like this will happen all the time where it'll go up, it'll go down. But the overall trend, if you're zooming out enough, you'll start to see it. So just be careful, because if you buy at the wrong time and you're going to be in massive down, a drawdown essentially, you're going to have some problems. The next one, XRP. A bit more colourful in that time period, but ultimately, again, a very, very slow, horrible grind. And yeah, one of those, right? The next one was Zilliqa. The reason why I'm featuring this one was because it was released at the wrong time. It was released at the start of that kind of falling away, right? So basically when the market, basically like this sort of time period where a coin would come out roughly, it came out in, the January 2018, give or take, right? Had a bit of a spike and then just absolutely melted, right? Nothing wrong with it at that time period, but ultimately the wrong time to release a coin. You're going to find that a lot. A lot of coins will come out, but this is where I think a lot of opportunities are when you buy a coin that is worth buying, not just because of what it is, but because it came out at the wrong time and there may not be any hype, there may not be any interest around it, which is important, right? The last one, VeChain, had a token change, a token split. Nothing happened, boom. So just be careful, right? The reason why I say that is because are you willing to hold for 2 years? Something that is very, very speculative that could vanish. Your choice. So let's talk about where I went wrong. My biggest problem was I bought some good solid assets, but in reality they were still in a mega downtrend. They were still absolutely, in all fairness, when we look at the overall bias of the market and looking at the chart and let's look at like the monthly time frame, for example here, just to show you some stuffs. Looks great on the monthly time frame on the log scale, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. But in reality, when you're buying these random ass tops at certain points in the market, it's going to hurt, right? When you're buying these resistance, when you're buying hype and stuff like that. And the problem that you got is a lot of old coins, like let's just look at Solana, for example, right? Yeah, it's in a massive downtrend. There's no real point buying it unless you're buying the psychological level that you want to buy because you've already planned it and you think it's going to be okay. The problem you've got is, and the problem that I had was I was getting FOMO. The FOMO was XYZ influencer was going, right, this is going to be the next big thing. Boom, it's going to be the next Ethereum killer. Boom, it's going to be the next whatever killer, right? And, oh, it's so low in price. Yeah, great. But in reality, just because it's low now doesn't mean it's going to be up next week or the week after. It's not. The time period is interesting. If you are going to buy altcoins, there's a real big possibility that they're going to go down a lot lower due to 2 factors. Bitcoin dominance and just where the market is right now in terms of the macro environment, right? So why would you want to tempt fate and go, you know what, I'm going to buy that? Because out of all this, with the slow grind and the bottoms, and then this, you're going to kill yourself in one way and one way only. You're going to lose your money. Why? You're going to spend it all very, very quickly. So this is where the biggest shakeout is. Step 1, you're getting FOMO. You're spending all your money too early and you've got a problem. Step 2, you've spent all your money. It's now 60, 78% worth a lot less than what it was worth in the past. and now you've got nothing else, and you've got to wait. You've got to hold on. And no one wants to hear, as a new influencer, as a new person or whatever, and you're listening to someone and all they're saying to you is, oh, just buy more, buy the dip, keep going. When in reality, those influencers that are telling you to buy positions are not actually buying the dip at all. Because we all know that. We all know that when Bitcoin was 30k, everyone laughed at it going to 20k. Did they buy? Probably not. Now they're at the point of going, oh, when it gets to 12k, I'll buy. I bet you they won't buy. They'll probably wait for 6k then. You get the picture? Yeah. So, psychologically, it's important that you do not get shaken out by basically getting caught up in the emotions of other people's greed. But in reality, a lot of influencers are not walking the walk. They're not. They never are. Right? In reality, buy the level that you want to buy, the asset you want to buy, and do not get shaken out because of the slow grind. The slow grind will be the worst in the time. If we're consolidating for 6 to 9 months, you should be accumulating, right? At the end of the day. So, there you go. If you want to watch more of my stuff, next video, it's pretty good. So yeah, I'll see you again very, very soon.